Hello. This activity is an extension activity for calendar, and when I left off in the calendar video, it was June 12th and we were trying to make this focus number. I said in the video that the place value mat is a nice way to start because it says the place values up here, which reminds the student of the values of the coins they can use. So for tens, think about the coin that's worth 10, so we got a dime, and how many sets of 10 we have? 1. So we need one coin that's worth 10 cents. And then over here in the ones, we need 2 coins that are worth 1 cent each. Then you could keep going by making different combinations. I would not make the different combinations on this chart because it could get confusing for kids using like nickels in the tens, because even though 2 nickels is worth 10, the coin itself is not worth 10 and that might get confusing. So instead, I would recommend switching to a different piece of paper or a different chart or whatever you're using and make rows to create different combinations. So on the first row, we just moved our combination to this paper. We have 10, 11, 12. Counting on is a helpful tactic for ensuring that the correct coins were used to make a number. After they've transferred the first combination from the place value chart, then you can ask them some questions to inspire different combinations. For example, you could ask, can I use more pennies to make 12? Can I use more than 2 pennies to make 12? And of course you can. You could use 12 pennies to make 12. So 1, 2, 3, actually I'm putting it down here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And notice that I separated these 2 away from the other 10. So I have 10 right here and then I have 2 more. And the reason is because I want to keep my 2 lined up and my 10 lined up so that the combinations of 10 are more obvious. So once they make it out of all pennies, you can ask, can I use more dimes to make 12? And the answer is no, because if you had more than 1 dime, then you would have at least 20, and that's more than 12. You could ask about quarters too. Can I use a quarter to make 12? And of course we cannot, because a quarter is worth 25, which is more than 12. Then you could ask, can I use a nickel to make 12? And by golly, you can. You can put a nickel and then count on to get to the next, to see if you can reach 12. So 5, and then you might want to use pennies. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I have my 2 more over here. And then you could ask about these 5 pennies over here. So you might frame it by saying, on the bottom I used 10 pennies and 2 more pennies, or 5, 5, and 2. Then I used a nickel, 5 pennies, and 2 pennies. So 5 cents, 5 cents, and 2 cents. What other combination of coins could I use to make 12? And they could use another nickel and a nickel to match these 5, and then 2 more pennies. And I know that as an adult, this is probably pretty obvious to you. We've been making change for a long time, but it's not obvious to your child, which is why I'm kind of going in depth about it. Because this is intended to be done as a calendar activity, and the calendar is going to start on day 1, you probably will not want to do all the way up to all the way up to 12 in pennies, because by that point your student will already understand that they can use all pennies to make any number. So it might not really be worth it for them to do this once they get past like 11 or 14. So when you get to larger numbers, if you're doing it with calendar, and if your student is used to using all pennies to do something, or a nickel and all pennies, then when you get to higher numbers, I would shy away from that, First, because it takes a long time. Second, because that's not how you would really make change in the real world unless you only had pennies to work with. It's very inefficient. And we want to encourage them to be doing like the real world applications of it, as well as the ones that will help them more with math. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is not as valuable as 5 plus 5. One more thing I want to point out is that the way I arrange these pennies down here, splitting them into groups of 5, 5, and 2, is not something that I would expect a student to do on their own. So if it is a tactic that you find helpful, it helps your student to understand the value of the coins better, then it's probably something that you will want to do for them. So they can put the pennies on here, and then you can tell them, okay, I'm going to split them into some groups, and tell them what you're doing, and you can even explain why if you want to. So I have them, all the 5, actually, I have the 10 here. If I really wanted to match it up, then maybe I would put the 10 in the middle to make it a little bit more obvious. So 5s all the way to here, 5s all the way to here, put them together, you make 10. It's not really that big of a deal though. This is just an idea for you if it's something you're into.